Welcome to the D-Spot podcast. Dr. Dana McNeil is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in working with couples using the Gottman method. Her evidence-based practice provides support for the wide range of relationship issues that modern couples face. By using her open, affirming, and outside-of-the-box thinking, Dr. Dana is able to approach her work with couples by bringing both insights and tools that reflect the realities of today's complicated relationships. Dr. Dana features guests on her podcast that include a unique array of celebrities, CEOs, influencers, and everyday folks who are all working on navigating new conversations about how society views what goes into a successful relationship. And now, here's your host, Dr. Dana McNeil.
Hello, welcome to the D-Spot podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dana McNeil, and this is the podcast about all things relationships and the people in them. Today, I am bringing you something different. We don't usually talk about what gets us into the relationship, which is dating, and I thought it would be wonderful to have a person who does that for a living. So I'm going to introduce you to April Davis. She's the founder of a company called LUMA, which stands for Luxury Matchmaking, and it is a nationwide matchmaking service that serves clients in over 40 states, and you are part of the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing company. That is astonishing. Good job, April. She has been a matchmaker for years, even though she looks like she's 12, but apparently she's been doing this for years. And she started out setting up friends and family. And she's like, wow, I'm good at this. Let me go ahead and set up this as a legit business. And we'll talk to her a little bit more about how she did that. But she also is, interestingly enough, married to an attorney. So I imagine that being married to an attorney, she also gets some intel on what doesn't work to help her with her job. So I'm excited to introduce you to April Davis. Hi, April.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. This is fascinating.
Well, I'm not just married to any kind of an attorney. I'm married to a divorce attorney.
Oh, even better. You have more and more intel.
Yeah. So that gave me some different kind of insight into relationships. And we were always talking about how people, what they do that leads them to a divorce. And oftentimes it was just things that they knew ahead of time, like, oh, they didn't want to have kids. Or one person, was Muslim and the other one was atheist. And then, that became a problem when they had kids. And so there was
red flags that people were just like, not looking, blinders, want to be in a relationship.
Well, you don't see red flags when you have rose-colored goggles, right?
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that when people fall in love, they start to ignore all those red flags. And so that's why we take really a values approach to matchmaking. We look at people's values and what's most important to them and try to match accordingly. So it's not just like, oh, this person likes to golf and he likes to golf, so perfect, it's a match, let's put them together. No, there's a lot more thought that goes into it when we're finding.
I like that, and that leads into something I was going to ask you about, because I like this idea of values as a way to relate someone, just besides swiping on an app and thinking that you look like a cutie patootie, right? So tell us, because this is like one of the burning questions for me, and I'm imagining anyone listening to who is dating, why would I choose a matchmaker over just going on any old website or social media? Like, one of the differences is you're going to match based on values, right?
It just, when you were saying this, I just had this thought about how when you go to Home Depot and you're trying to pick out a paint color and there's thousands of options there.
Yeah.
So imagine, okay, going there trying to figure it out and what's going to go well with your furniture and this and that, or you can hire an interior designer and get it done and it's going to be amazing. So that's really the difference, right? You can try to be the interior designer and figure it out on your own and kind of bump it around, and it's never going to be quite as well if you hire a professional to do it. And so we work with a lot of busy executives and professionals and people that just maybe don't have the time or don't want to deal with the whole online thing. They don't want to put their photo out there. Maybe they want their confidentiality, and maybe they're not meeting the type of person that they're seeking ultimately. And that's why it can be helpful to have middleman, which is, the matchmaker. It's something that's been around for thousands of years. And we really dig in to get to know our clients, understand who they are and who they're looking for. And then we can match accordingly. We introduce them, we set up the dates, we plan it and everything. So they just show up and get to have fun. So we take care of all those details. If you think about it, kind of like a concierge / personal assistant.
Absolutely, because what research has shown is that when we have too many choices, we don't make choices, right? And I hear from my clients a lot that are dating that it seems like, if something starts to feel uncomfortable a little bit, then that person just goes back to the candy store, which is that website, because they got FOMO, right? That there might be the bigger, better fish there. And so I'll just keep searching. But I'm imagining when an expert like you says, no, these are the 5 that I have found for you that are the most perfect, or whatever number that is, right? And so you vetting them and you telling them it's not going to get cuter and better and more interesting if you keep going back to get a paint sample, that there's like an ease that they can settle in and really try to like make the relationship work.
Well, we really want people to focus on the relationship and not just the person, and or like what the person can bring to you and stuff.
Okay.
It's being committed to finding a relationship, which is, I think, different than just that person sitting in the seat. And so if they want a bonding relationship, and when you are just, next all the time, you're never going to be able to really bond with someone. And so that's why we try to place a lot of emphasis on, really connecting and bonding with someone, and why that's valuable versus, just having a bunch of dates with people. And you hit the nail on the head that with online, that there's so many options. There's too many options.
Yes.
And it's easy. I always think about fishing, where you can throw that one back and catch another and try to get a bigger fish and a bigger fish. And you'll just end up in that cycle. And pretty soon you've caught all the fish and that there isn't any new fish. So, or you're the old fish that's in the pond and nobody wants to go with you now because they've seen your profile online for years. So,
and you're never caught by anybody, so you must be damaged goods or whatever that connotation is. Okay.
I hear that a lot from people where they're like, I got online again, and it's the same people that were on there last time I was single. And like, it's interesting to know that people they do pay attention, they do see.
So I want to talk about, I'm curious as a therapist, if I'm continuing to keep throwing the fish back and going to get more, is that potentially, you're my little junior therapist now, my dating therapist, does that potentially mean that I'm not necessarily ready to be in a relationship because I keep telling myself, I give myself an out that there's something better out there for me? And is that just my way of protecting myself so that I don't necessarily have to commit to a relationship?
I'd say that's one sign, right? I mean, definitely it's a good sign. I also think that it's just kind of reflective of our society, at least American society these days, where we're used to that immediate gratification. We can order whatever we want online, Amazon, we can have it show up the next day or that day. And or it's like, we think that we can just buy it's like buying a car when we are dating. We think we can choose whatever options we want. And if it's not exactly, we want the leather and it only comes with vinyl, then no, we don't want that one. We're going to find a different one or make a different one. And people need to realize that, you're dealing with relationships and people, and they're not this isn't Build a Bear or Build a Boyfriend, I always say, or what's that Weird Science? Remember that TV show?
Yes. Yeah. I'm constructing the perfect partner.
Right. And that's why, again, I come back to, you have to be committed to the relationship that you want, and not necessarily, it's not just the person sitting in the seat. Because sometimes you're going to have to take the good with the bad, right? So
I love that you're doing that, because you're their coach as well, right? You're not just a matchmaker, but you're coaching them through the process. And I'm so grateful that there's someone in the dating world that's like, it's not always going to be perfect. You're not perfect. You're going to have to find the things that you can accept that won't change, and dig a little bit deeper and be okay with things not being perfect and that you're normalizing that experience.
Yeah, exactly. So the matchmakers on my team, there's an average tenure of 14 years so of matchmaking in the matchmaking profession. And then we also have dating coaches on the team and spiritual coaches and even health coach, because everybody, we're all a work in progress and we all need help. And so that's why it can be really helpful to talk to someone that's, this is their job, this is what they do, they're professionals, and just can offer a different opinion. Because I'll hear people just spew out huge stereotypes or and just they're acting like they know everything about everyone. And I'm flabbergasted because this is okay. What I do every day is I meet with people, and sometimes I would meet with up to 10 people a day.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was a busy day. But, and what I've learned after meeting and interviewing so many people is that the moment that you think you have a stereotype or you figured it out, then you'll meet somebody that will blow that out of the water. So you can't just make blanket judgments on people. You have to be open-minded, and
which is why your approach is great, right? Because you're saying, let's figure out your non-negotiables on values, because people will lose hair and gain weight and we'll all get shorter as we age. So stop looking for the Benjamins in the wallet, maybe find a value system that is not going to change because that's their character, which will hopefully stay that way over time.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that comes to mind is that women especially think that look at my, I have this great resume. I'm really successful. I have all these things. And so I should be able to, a guy that, is equally or more successful is going to want me. And it's different, obviously, for men versus women and what they're looking for in someone. Men are very visual creatures and they want that attraction right off the bat. Whereas women, guys can grow on women. As women get to know guys, they can see that they offer more than just the physical, right? So I always think about what women are looking for is safety. It's kind of
emotional safety.
Yeah, so emotional safety, maybe financial safety, physical safety. They want to, he can protect their, and emotional, physical. Basically, I think I covered them all. But it's different between men and women, and they have to be aware of that too. And so sometimes the whole online dating cannot be won't be as helpful in finding that type of attraction and relationships for people.
So I'm imagining, because you have some high-end clients that confidentiality is important to. And when you are matchmaking professional women that are successful, is that intimidating to some of the male partners, or is that how do you help them navigate that world?
Yeah, I think some guys are definitely going to be intimidated by a really successful woman. So she wouldn't be the right fit for him, right? So we wouldn't put them together. Instead, I would focus on, so if I got a woman that was like, I need somebody that makes so much more money than me and I would challenge them to consider finding someone who can complement them. You don't necessarily want your twin, or even maybe a better, more richer version of.
You're not trying to get another alpha male to compete with you.
And you have enough money. Really, you need you don't. So why not find somebody that is the right complement to you, that can help be supportive to you in different ways, not financially, but maybe emotionally and maybe even physically, or whatever it is that is also you're looking for to help complete the puzzle.
So I imagine part of what your coaching is also helping your clients identify when they're ready to date. Because sometimes you've had relationships end and there's a process that you need to go through. How do your clients know, yes, I'm ready for this?
Yeah, I always talk about how, so my husband's the divorce attorney and I'm the matchmaker. So people always laugh, they're like, oh, you can refer people to each other.
One-stop shop. It's a revolving door. Go see him and then come see you.
we just need a therapist in between us. So
Okay, here you go. I'm part of your world now.
yeah,
Kakashi.
we'll add you to the circle. So I feel like a lot of people don't do their work though in between, and they just kind of bounce from relationship to relationship. And there's so many things they could do. They could talk to a therapist, they could read a book, but instead they just use their own experience and maybe venting, or I don't know, they look at Instagram for support.
Yeah.
And really it is something that it's unfortunate, I think, because relationships are so important, not just for love, but friends and everything. And it's not something that gets a lot of emphasis for learning, right? And we don't learn how to deal properly with conflict, or just all these different things, and those are some life skills that are very valuable. So I'm just a big advocate of people taking the time to learn more about themselves and about relationships, and read some books. I see all the books behind you, and obviously what you do. And I mean, I have a shelf full of books and like 200 and some audiobooks that I listen to. So it's really important, I think, to just really try to learn and grow and understand, and be humble enough to know that we don't know everything, and it's important to continue.
Well, and they're bound to repeat the mistakes that ended the past relationship if they don't kind of have some insight about what they bring to the party, both good and bad.
Exactly. And that's why when we do an intake with our clients, we go through their past relationships and understand, what did they like about them? What happened ultimately in the relationship, and just kind of figure out, okay, what's their pattern?
Okay.
And, what are we going to do different this time around? Because, what's the
Because
difference?
they're the common denominator in all of their relationships. So whatever they've been dragging as baggage, they're going to bring into this one.
Or maybe they're going after a certain type, and they're trying to, oh, maybe this is the right one, that, if I'm going after the same type, but if this one might work out, because maybe she won't be, or he won't be, so blah blah blah, whatever, XYZ. And so they keep having the same type of This one guy that I had as a client comes to mind, where he literally, every woman he had dated was blonde, and she had a boob job. And
that was his type.
Oh yeah, he definitely had a type.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do this time around? We're going to try to find somebody that maybe doesn't have a boob job. I don't know. Or maybe he has a different color hair.
With brown hair and an A cup. Okay, we're going to.
And he kept going after that same physical type. And he's like, well, maybe this will be the one, and maybe she'll work out, or she'll be different somehow than all the other ones. And I'm not saying that it's not possible, but
right.
And there's probably more similarities to his type than just the physical things that I'm saying. But
right. It's limiting you though. Like what I'm hearing you say is that if you're really looking for your person doesn't just come in a blonde wrapper. Like, and you're limiting yourself. You're going to the grocery store and you're like, I'm only going to have me some wheat bread. And you're like, sourdough rye, not interested. But you say that you're really hungry. And so it gives you a mixed message about what they're really looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that leads to a question that's important. And I'm imagining people are wondering, is it a stereotype that older, successful men are only looking for someone who's like 20 years younger than them? Because a lot of my clients are telling me that this is a stereotype out in the dating world, that if you're 40 or 50 years old, you're not going to find a guy who's interested in you, who's also 40 or 50 years old, that they're looking for 30 and under. Is that been your experience?
Yeah, stereotypes exist for a reason, right? But so there is a subset of guys that's what they want, but there's a lot more, I would say, that at least that I deal with, that are they want to date their age, but they do want to be attracted to the woman.
Okay.
And so I think that these women that are telling you this, I would ask them, to look at themselves. Like, are you taking care of yourself? Are you at a healthy weight? And there's so many women that I've noticed that they just put their kids first, or their career first, and they kind of let them. They put themselves last, and so they're not doing all those things that really made them feel good about themselves, and healthy, and
self-care,
feminine. Right? What's that?
Self-care. They're not making themselves part of the care group that they take care of.
And so they lose their femininity, because a lot of times they, cut their hair, they're in positions where they're having to make big decisions and just running the show. And so they kind of take on these masculine characteristics, and well, that's not attractive to men. And so that's where I would say, okay, well, what are you doing? What kind of energy are you giving off in the dating world, and what can you do to try to like find your femininity? And then you will find that there are men that are your age that are looking for someone that is closer to their age and not just 20 years younger. But it is a fact, though, that men can date women that are 20 years younger. So I also think that women need to be realistic. So sometimes I have women that come to us and they're like, I only want to date guys my age and younger. Well, that's not always there's not going to be that many guys that are open to that, or you're going to attract the wrong kind of guys.
Okay. So you're suggesting then that they maybe think about dating someone a bit older than them?
Yeah, I mean, around your age, or I think that 10 years is really
either direction.
Yeah, well, at least I think that would be 10, even 15 years is people always say, age is just a number, and it depends on the person. So
yeah,
my husband is 10 and a half years older than me. So, and it works. I feel like I couldn't relate to guys my own age. And when we met, we were in similar places in our lives, and it worked out for us. So.
Okay. So we have somebody who's ready to work with you. What's the process? What should they expect it would look like?
They can just go to our website. It's lumasearch.com, and LUMA is LUMA search.com, and fill out the profile form. So that way they will be entered into our system, and then they can schedule a time to meet with a matchmaker. And the matchmaker will do basically go through a bunch of questions to understand who they are and who they're looking for, and make a determination if we can ultimately work with them, if we think we have the kind of person that they're looking for.
Okay.
Accept them into our program as a client, and then we can get to work and helping them to find their match.
How many clients do you usually have at a time that you would be able to sort through to look for a partner for them?
Oh, clients are those that are ones that hire us to find, for us to do the search on their behalf.
Okay.
Managers work with about 10 clients at a time.
Okay.
So
you give them lots of individualized attention. They're just not on a website somewhere where people are scrolling through. These are they become your children and wards of your practice for a while.
Yeah. LUMA is a boutique agency. It's very much one-on-one. And like I said, we have a whole team of experts that can help people with whether it's spirituality or health or state coaching in general. And we have a lot of different tools that we use to help people to ultimately get into that relationship they're seeking.
It sounds like it would be a really great experience for somebody who's maybe not had as much success or had some disappointments and don't really understand what they're doing, so that you can kind of guide them and give them feedback.
We have a first date specialist on our team also.
Oh my goodness. Tell me about a first date specialist. What do they do?
She will look at clients' profiles, their online profiles, and give them feedback and just talk to them about, what best practices and kind of get feedback from them on what they're doing. So sometimes we'll have our clients, after they've been on a date or two and we've received some feedback, we'll send them to the first date specialist, and she's a published author and also about first dates. And so she can deliver the feedback. She's just really good with that particular piece.
Okay, now I'm curious, what does a perfect first date, or as close to perfect first date, what are we looking to achieve on that date?
Well, I think word that comes to my mind is connection.
Okay.
So a lot of times people show up on a date and they're like, okay, show me why you
give me your resume,
or tell me why you deserve a second date. And
really?
I've heard from guys, this one guy in particular, that she showed up and then she went to the bathroom and she fixed herself up because all of a sudden she was interested. So she showed up she was like, yeah,
she didn't bother to even give that person the respect of putting on her face. She was deciding whether or not he was worth a makeup application.
Yeah. So then she went to the bathroom and came back, and she was like more done up and like, that's interesting, because she came in with a negative attitude. So that's part of it, is like we all make preliminary judgments, and that's why I always talk about it's so important to go in with an open mind and open heart, and instead of being there like expecting like you're going to give me something, like you're going to show me a good time, you're going to show me why you deserve a second date. I think it's more beneficial for people to go in with a giving mentality, and that you're there to give the person across the table a good time. You're there to, help them to whatever you want to learn more about them. You're curious, being genuinely curious, all those things will help build that connection.
I'm sort of always telling my clients, why are you rushing to see if they're marriage material? You can't even decide if you want to be their friend by the end of your coffee date or whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, isn't that what you're sort of saying, is we should approach this like, is there enough in common that I'd even want to know you?
Well, and that's kind of annoying to me, because it's like you're trying to decide if they're someone that you should marry. Like, okay, first things first, like you decide if they even want to see you again, first of all. And it's just, people are so complex and they evolve, and different people can bring out the best or worst in each other. So to make these huge judgments of people and fractions of a second sometimes,
you're not giving people the benefit of the doubt that maybe they're not good test takers, and this feels like a test, right? I'm not going, if I'm an introvert, I'm not going to be the most gregarious person on that date until I get to know you a bit.
And do you really want that person? Because I mean, sometimes those people that are super gregarious and funny and everything else, they're professional daters. Like they know what to do and how to get in your pants, or to get whatever they want.
Oh, good intel. Good intel. Okay.
Again, that's why I think it's so important to know that people are complex, and it takes, I mean, I think it's important to go on 2 dates, because I think back to the story of this one time I met a gentleman at a networking event, and he was super shy and kind of nerdy, and I had to do a lot more of the talking to try to get him to, basically tell me about himself. And then we agreed that we're going to meet for coffee, so he could go through our whole process and everything. And I seriously had to go back and like look at my notes, like, is this the same person? It was a totally different guy that showed up, like suave, and then he was way more confident and comfortable. And I think it was partially because that was the second time getting to being around me, so he was more comfortable. But then we were just one-on-one too, so it wasn't a weird like environment with a ton of people around and you're kind of yelling and trying to hear each other. So it's just it's
your environment, it's your, like you said, how comfortable you are in the situation with the other person, how much you're vibing with them. Maybe if you're not disconnected because you just came from a work event, like there's a lot of things that can impact them being able to be present on that first date, and maybe give them a second chance.
But his attractiveness level, I would say he went from like a 4 to a 7 or 8, because just his demeanor had changed, and that just between the two interaction or meetings.
Okay. So looking for connection, giving people another opportunity, wear your makeup before you come to the date. Don't possibly just go do it in the bathroom. These are good tips. What are the other new dating tips?
And what I mean with that example is about like coming in with an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah. Showing up.
Prejudged and was like, oh, I'm not going to be interested in this guy, whatever. And then, it's like showing up, not really putting in a lot of effort. And then as soon as she found out, like, oh, this is somebody that I really am interested in, maybe I better show up. And so that's
crazy. I mean, I guess because I've always thought, well, if you wouldn't show up enough to me to even treat me like you would your friend, what are you telling me about our potential? And by the way, if you're not a perfect fit with them, maybe you have a cousin or a brother or a bestie you want to introduce me to. So maybe you should suit up.
Exactly. And that's
okay. So do people still like not call for a certain amount of time? Is that a thing? Like, how do we let each other know that we're interested?
I mean, okay, so there are different schools of thought on that one, but I just think there's a balance, right? Just normal communication, or I think of sales a lot of times with dating.
Okay.
Sales are really similar. You don't want to be come off
Too
appearing
pushy.
pushy or eager, and nobody wants the free anything. If you can get something if something is worth $1,000 or it's free, people are naturally going to want the $1,000 item because
Sure. Better quality. We make an assumption.
Higher inherent value in it.
Okay.
There's a higher price tag attached to it. So do you want to be the $1,000 purse, or do you want to be the free purse? And so you want to find that balance of being available and showing that you're interested, but also not too available or too interested. And so again, I think it's still a lot of times that we're women expect men to make the first move. They expect men to pursue.
Is that still a thing? Do we still expect a fella to like do all the work?
Well, I think a lot of women do. They have that, they want to be pursued, and it's romantic and everything. And I think it's great if guys do that. Absolutely, they should. But I also want to make women aware that the good ones are having a lot of other women going after them. So if you want this great guy that you've, this laundry list of things that you're looking for in someone, you're going to have to put yourself out there, and you may have to make that move. I was actually talking to my brother yesterday, and he told me about how he's like getting all these women. Like randomly, the lady at the drive-through gave him her number, and some lady at the gym he met her at the gym, and then she followed up with him on social media and messaged him. And he's like, I'm not even trying. He's not interested in any of these particular women, but I think it's interesting that women will go out and they aren't making the first move. And why wouldn't you, right? The way I look at it is, you pursued everything else in your career to get to where you are, everything else in your life to get to where you are. You wanted a home, so you worked and you made money and you bought your house and fixed it up and made it your home. You wanted this career, so you paid to go to school so you could get into this career path and be where you are. So in the most important, I think arguably the most important thing in your life is your partner. Why wouldn't you pursue the kind of person you want? And
like, is it because there's always been that sort of like message out in the social world that men want to hunt, right? And if you make yourself too available, then you're an easy catch that they can just drag back to the cave and there's no effort?
Right. I mean, there's a balance. So think about back in the day when the lady used to drop her handkerchief,
right?
And then pick it up and give it to her. So there's making yourself available and making it, showing that you're interested. I think
you have skin in the game too. You're not just,
because men also, we're dealing with the whole Me Too movement, and men don't want to come off as a creep, so maybe they don't want to pursue or ask.
Gotcha. Good point.
They don't want to bother somebody what if she is married and they don't know or what. So it's important for women to drop the handkerchief in a modern day sense and let him know that, hey, I'm interested, and then allow him to make the next move. Or sometimes you might have to be a little more forward and say, here's my number, call me. So
okay, this is awesome. I'm so grateful that you were willing to come on and give us some insight on dating these days, because it's not easy. And again, I'm so grateful that there's services like yours that kind of help demystify what to do, or just to have that like almost best friend that you can like deconstruct the date with afterwards, or prepare for it in like a professional way so you have more opportunities for success. I'm really grateful that you were here. Thank you for spending some time with us. So repeat again, how do they find you, love, so that, because they're going to be knocking down your door.
And I just have to say, I appreciate what you do for helping people be ready for a relationship and have the right tools that they need. So to become a member of LUMA, they can just go to our website at lumasearch.com, and it's LUMA search, SEARCH.com, and fill out the profile form. So
Grateful for you. Thank you so much for participating. And I hope that lots of people hear this and they come use your services so they can have a better opportunity at having a good relationship.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
This has been the D-Spot Podcast with Dr. Dana McNeil. To learn more about Dr. Dana's practice, simply visit us at www.danamcneil.com.